Hi there! Next step in getting ready for winter sowing is prepping all of my containers, and maybe even today doing some actually getting them set up and set outside with their seeds and soil. But I'll do one video just on the prep, and then I'll do a separate video on actually filling up the containers to try to keep these from getting too long. So first thing first, hang on, I have taken all of my milk jugs. Now one thing, make sure you rinse out your, if you're using milk jugs, please rinse them out right after you've emptied them out, or otherwise they will be super smelly and like to the point where you probably wouldn't even want to use them. But what I've done is I've just gone through and I've numbered every milk jug in a couple two or three places, near the handle, on the two front sides, and on the bottom. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my drill with a 1/4 inch bit, and I'm going to drill probably 5 or 6 holes on the very bottom, and then a couple right here. Let's see if I set this over here. A couple right here on these like edge corners. That way, like just up from the bottom. That way, if for some reason the bottom gets gunked up and things can't drain, it'll still be able to drain from these holes. You do not need to put any holes at the top. This right here will be enough for condensation, rain, snow, whatever to get in. After I've drilled those holes at the bottom, then right here next to the handle is like right here where it like starts to bend. I will drill one hole here, and then I'm going to use either a box cutter or sharp scissor snips and cut all the way around until I get back over to about here, and then this piece right here I will leave attached. That's going to allow me to then use this as a handle to flip this open. Then I'll be able to fill up the dirt. I'm going to probably be aiming for at least 4 inches because it will settle through the winter time, through the rain falling on it. It's going to settle down into the pot, and you want to make sure that you have enough in here so that even after it settles, there's at least 3 inches to allow for the roots to have the space that they need, and also for it to hold on to enough moisture for things to not dry out and me having to be watering them all the time, which defeats the purpose of, easy. So I'm going to get all of these prepped that way, and then after they're put together, you use duct tape to duct tape that back on, and they're ready to go outside. So that is the milk jug style containers. The other kinds of containers I'm going to be using are leftover nursery pots. In other words, just when I've bought plants, small like perennials or small shrubs. So anything that's like in the quart to 1 gallon. I think I've got 1 or 2 here that are probably a 2-gallon size, I think. And these are the ones that are a little sturdier, stiffer plastic. You can get things from nursery pots from when you buy things, and they're a flimsier plastic. Find something that's an example. So this, you could use this, but you're maybe only going to get 1 winter out of it. So when I have bought things, I have kind of stored up a little stash of these. And what I'll do for these is they've already got drainage holes in the bottom, so I'm going to fill it up again, making sure I get at least 4 or so inches of potting mix in here that's been moistened. And then sprinkle the seeds on top. And then for a cover, because we need sunlight to be able to get through. Obviously this is opaque. Sunlight's not going to get through this. Sunlight's not going to get through those. Whereas like the milk jugs, the sun can get right through the jug. These, they can't. So what I'll be putting on top is a clear, either plastic trash bag, very cheap off of Amazon, or this year I'm trying an idea. I saw some other people got some cheap clear shower caps. About like a pack of 100 of them for a few dollars. I'll put that over top. Now I'm not going to rely on the elastic, because what I've experienced with when I tried rubber bands, the UV rays and the elements cause that rubber to break down. And I'm sure the elastic in a cheap shower cap is even less resistant to those things. So what I'll do then is I'll take duct tape and tape around to keep it taut across the top here. I do not want it flopping down in, because then once the seedlings start to grow, you don't want this plastic to end up touching those little baby seedlings. So I'll get that tight across here. I'll tape it down, and then I'll poke a few holes so that rain can get through. And for that, you know, like a whole big smattering of holes, just stabbing it basically with my garden snips usually does the trick. So that's how I'll get these prepared. So I'm going to pause my filming for a few minutes. I'm going to get the jugs all drilled up. I'll show you what they look like, and then that'll be the only other prep for today will be to get everything all assembled. So I'll be back soon. All right, I decided while I was doing this to share with you a couple of suggestions, tips when you're putting your holes in your milk jugs. There's lots of different methods. What I use is a drill with a 1/4 inch bit. I've seen some people online talk about using it's called a soldering iron, and you get it hot, it's got a pointy tip, and you poke the holes that way, or taking a, similar to that idea, getting a screwdriver, Phillips head screwdriver, getting it hot. I don't want to mess with all that. To me, it's easier just to use my drill. But a couple of things. One, do not try to cut around until after you have drilled all your holes. Two, have something stable to hold the milk jug on. Don't try to hold it up in the air. Milk jugs, or jugs of this type, 2-liter bottles of pop, any of that kind of stuff, the plastic is somewhat flimsy, so you want a stable surface. You could also put it inside of a box that's close to the same size. That also is kind of nice. It kind of contains a lot of the little bits of plastic that come flying off and go everywhere. But I start with what I have found to be the most successful is I find on my milk jugs, from where I get mine from, there are 2 of the corners that are sort of indented a little bit. I don't know if you can kind of see that right there, and then on the opposite side. So that's where I'm going to put my 2 holes that are up off of the base, and I'm going to just get this so that it's kind of sitting flat and go right at it with the drill. Now, be aware, a drill will walk on you when you're trying to drill into something like this. Ask me how I know. A couple of years ago, when I was setting all of my milk jugs up, I was holding on to something kind of like this. I had my hand pretty close. I was drilling like this. The drill walked and drilled right into the web of my hand. I was very fortunate that I was able to immediately stop. My reaction was fast enough, but it tore my hand up pretty bad. So keep your hand out of walking distance, and go more this way as opposed to this way. All right, so I got my 2 kind of side holes, and then I'm going to hold it like this. And you see how it kind of walks, and that's a little lower than I want it to be, so I'm going to try that again. There, I want it up as close to the handle as I can get it. I don't know if you can see that. I want it up here by the handle, not down a little ways, because that's cutting into my depth of what I can put for potting mix. Then I find the flat side again, and I just kind of hold it on my work surface, and I'm going to just start drilling holes. When I said earlier 5 or 6 holes, actually it's more like, I don't know, 7 or 8 until it looks right. But I just start drilling. I go around the perimeter first. And I'm putting a hole maybe every, I don't know, inch and a half. You can see that the milk jug wants to give on you, so just be prepared for that. And then a few here kind of in the center. And there we go. I would rather have to water than worry about things getting waterlogged. So you can see there, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 holes. And one more. not including the two that are kind of up on the sides, just a little bit like here. Then, now that you've got all your holes drilled, now take your scissors or snips and use that hole that you cut up by the handle and just snip all the way around. It doesn't matter if you don't keep it perfectly level. Once you get to about here, you can kind of see if you're off a little bit. And again, you don't want to cut all the way. That's a pain if you've got to duct tape the whole top. You want to leave a little bit attached right near where the handle is, and then you have a little handy little, there you go. And then now this will be ready. And I'm going to finish up my jugs, and then I'll be back. Okay, so to give you an idea what these are going to look like, here's a shower cap. This is how they came. They look like this. You kind of fiddle with it. It opens up. I just stretched it out over the top of the nursery pot, and then I literally took these. You could use a pair of scissors, knife, whatever, and just to show you what this looks like. And then normally I would do this after I get this all together, dirt in there, seeds, and then drape this over, and then I'm going to take duct tape, and I'll probably put duct tape on 4 sides to help keep it tight across the top, and then take these and literally just all across the top, and it makes lots of little holes, and that'll allow the rain to get through, but it'll still keep the seeds somewhat protected from things like birds eating them or things like that. It will still give some ability for that to hold on to moisture, because it does somewhat have a lid on there. So basically, I think we are all ready to go. I've got all of my milk jugs are cut up or put holes in. One other thing I wanted to mention about the holes. So I will be putting mine on a gravel pathway, and so you want to think about where you're going to place your jugs to help you decide just maybe how many holes you want to make. I made quite a few. It's going to be on gravel. I want to make sure that it's going to drain. The gravel will help with that, but gravel does have, it is small little pieces, so it could get kind of stuck up inside some of these holes, hence lots of holes. If you are putting yours in a grassy area, 2 things to keep in mind. If you put your jugs or your containers in a grassy area, it is very likely that they will kill the grass, depending on your climate and when things start to warm up. That's what I originally had done with mine, is I put them in a grassy spot, and I started to notice when I would go out and check on things that the grass was looking very unhappy as we would have little warm spells. So keep that in mind. You want to put your jugs somewhere that they're not going to kill your grass or be in the way. If you put them on a patio, you're going to want to, especially if it's some kind of stone, you would want to keep a real close eye on them for drying out. And then also know your climate. I live in an area where we tend to have fairly wet, soggy winters, either from snow or rain. So I need my containers to drain well, because they're going to more than likely not need me to water them until it gets to be spring if we have a hot spell. So I need to make sure my stuff is draining really well. If you live someplace that's really, really dry and gets very little precipitation, you may not need as much drainage. So you have to just kind of play that by ear and check what your climate is like to help you make that decision about, if you're making your own containers with the drainage, how many holes do you need? So I think I'm ready to start actually filling these up with some potting soil. So that'll be the next video. Thanks for joining me here today in Aunt Susan's garden.